Welcome back to the Africa Development Hub, where we explore bold ideas, real solutions, and the future of a rising continent. Africa holds the key to feeding the future. While the world races to solve food insecurity, one continent stands out as the last great agricultural frontier. Africa holds 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. That's not just a statistic, it's a goldmine of opportunity. But the question remains, who's going to benefit from it? For centuries, Africa was known for raw exports, cocoa, coffee, cotton, and cashews. But most of that wealth left the continent in raw form, processed and packaged elsewhere. Africa has been feeding industries abroad, while its own people still face hunger. Today, over 280 million people in Africa are undernourished, according to the UN. And yet, the continent produces some of the finest soils, rainfall patterns, and growing conditions on Earth. How can both be true? Because the issue isn't land, it's infrastructure, investment, and political will. Africa's agricultural sector remains largely informal and under-mechanized. In many regions, farmers still rely on outdated tools, inconsistent weather, and unpredictable markets. They lack access to reliable irrigation systems, cold storage and transport, modern seed technology, financing and insurance market information and pricing. The result? Low productivity, food waste, and missed opportunity. But a quiet revolution is already underway. Across the continent, a new generation of farmers, agri-tech entrepreneurs, and policy reformers are rethinking African agriculture. In Kenya, startups like Twiga Foods connect farmers directly to vendors using mobile apps and data to cut out the middleman. In Nigeria, companies like Thrive Agric and FarmCrowdy use tech to crowdsource investment for smallholder farmers. In Ghana, youth are returning to the land, not because they have to, but because they see profit and purpose in farming. This is smart agriculture, driven by data, scaled by digital tools, and powered by youth. But farming alone isn't enough. The real wealth lies in value addition. Right now, Africa exports raw cocoa and imports chocolate. It grows cashews but imports packaged snacks. This means millions of jobs and billions in profit are lost to processors in Europe, Asia, and the US. If African nations invested in agro-processing zones, logistics hubs, and food science innovation, they could transform their economies. Instead of just growing food, Africa could package, brand, export, and dominate global food markets. And let's talk about global demand. By 2050, the world's population will exceed 9 billion. Food demand will rise by at least 60%. Africa has the land, the labor, and the climate to help meet that demand, if it gets the support it needs. But there's a catch. Foreign investors are buying up land across Africa, sometimes through murky deals and at rock-bottom prices. In some countries, millions of hectares have been leased to outside corporations, with little benefit to local communities. This is the modern-day scramble for Africa. Not for gold or oil, but for land and water. Africa must learn from the past. The continent cannot afford to lose control of its food systems the way it lost control of its minerals and energy in previous generations. The good news is, solutions exist. Governments can invest in irrigation, rural roads, and farmer cooperatives. They can offer tax breaks for local agro-processing instead of exporting raw goods. They can create land ownership systems that protect small farmers and encourage long-term planning. And they can push for regional food trade through platforms like the African Continental Free Trade Area. ensuring that food moves across borders, not just out of them. Here's the bottom line. Africa doesn't just have the potential to feed itself, it has the potential to feed the world and fuel its own economic transformation. But the time to act is now. If the continent invests in its farmers, protects its land, and builds local food systems that add value, it can turn agriculture from a survival strategy into a source of power and prosperity. Because Africa's true wealth isn't underground. It's growing in its soil, carried in the hands of its farmers, and waiting to be harvested. The gold mine is real. The question is, who will claim it? Thanks for watching. If you believe in Africa's future, share this video, and let's keep the conversation growing.